Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here this afternoon. First, I want to introduce Frank Rusick, who is Shanann Watt's father, and Frankie Rusick, who is her brother. Mr. Rusick would like to make a brief statement. Please understand, based on where we are at this point, and please be respectful, he has chosen and asked not to answer questions. And Mr. Rusick, the podium is yours, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am Shanann's dad. This is her brother. We would like to thank everyone in the Frederick Police Department and all the agencies involved for working so hard to find my daughter, granddaughters, and Nico. Thank you, everyone, for coming out to the candlelight visual and saying all your prayers. They are greatly appreciated. And keep the prayers coming for our family. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This afternoon, my office filed formal charges against Christopher Lee Watts. The charges that we filed are as follows. 3 counts of murder in the first degree after deliberation, 1 count naming Shanann Watts, 1 count naming Bella, 1 count naming Celeste. Each of those is a Class 1 felony. We also filed 2 counts of first-degree murder of a child under the age of 12 by a person in a position of trust. Obviously, you can tell based upon the elements of those in the description that those counts name Bella and Celeste as victims. Those are both also Class 1 felonies. We filed 1 count of unlawful termination of a pregnancy in the first degree, which is a Class 2 felony as a result of Shanann being pregnant at the time of her death. We filed 3 counts of tampering with a deceased human body, each of which is a Class 3 felony, each of which count obviously names Shanann, Bella, and Celeste as victims. Please keep in mind that at this point these are merely allegations. There are formal charges. However, the defendant is presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. The defendant will be advised of these charges and the possible penalties as well as his rights tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock in Division 5. As I talked about last week, we also filed this afternoon a motion to unseal the affidavit in support of warrantless arrest. That was granted by Judge Kopkow this afternoon. That warrantless arrest affidavit will be available this afternoon at the conclusion of this press conference. Please understand that because this investigation is still ongoing, I am not able to, nor will I answer questions about the investigation itself or the facts of this case or the facts of this investigation. But if there are questions about procedure or the charges themselves, I'm happy to answer them at this point. Yes, sir.
At any point did you consider the death penalty?
Way too early to have that conversation.
Why?
Because I don't have to make a determination on that until 63 days after arraignment.
Is that something you are considering?
I am not going to answer questions about that at this point. It is way too early in the process. I simply filed charges today.
Mr. Rourke, is there a confession in this case?
I cannot speak about the facts of this investigation.
Can you talk a little about the charge for the unlawful termination of a pregnancy? The way that's described, it implies that the woman died as a result of the unlawful termination. Can you just talk at all about that?
Sure, the elements of that offense, and it's a fairly new crime that the General Assembly in Colorado passed a couple of years ago. It talks about with the intent to terminate the pregnancy, the defendant caused the death of an individual, thereby resulting in the termination of the pregnancy. It is a Class 2 felony because the mother of the child is deceased or died as a result of his actions.
The charges on the document suggest that the 2 children died on the 12th and that the mother died on the 13th. Can you explain why the document suggests that?
That's not what the document suggests. The document suggests that the possible date range for the death of Bella and Celeste happened between and including August 12th through the 13th. We know that on the 13th, Shanann had returned from her work trip and had been seen alive.
Mr. Rourke, I know you handle a lot of cases. What has this one been like for you personally and for the people on your staff?
Still ongoing, so I'm not ready to answer that question yet.
Can you talk about the next steps?
The next step is he will be advised tomorrow morning, as I said, of the charges and the possible penalties. Following that, he has the right to a preliminary hearing. I don't know if the intention is to set it for a preliminary hearing tomorrow or to set it for a status conference somewhere down the road. That'll be something that we'll discuss in court tomorrow.
How many prosecutors are working on this case?
Right now, I have 3 attorneys assigned to this case.
Is this working all weekend to get to this point, formal charges? I mean, I imagine it's been a long week.
It's been a long week for the Frederick Police Department, obviously for Shanann's family. It's been a long week.
What is going to be the most difficult part about this investigation for your team?
I don't think there's anything more difficult about this investigation than any other. We endeavor to do a complete, thorough investigation on every case we work on in this office, and we will do the same on this case. And I promise that to his father and to her father and her brother today.
The defense documents suggest strangulation. What are you suggesting?
I'm not suggesting anything at this point because I can't talk about the facts of the case other than what we've charged. All right. Thank you very much.
All right, we've been listening there to prosecutors give us an update on the Christopher Watts case. We heard the prosecutor there talk about the fact that Christopher Watts has now been formally charged in the deaths of his pregnant wife and their 2 young daughters. And joining me now by phone from Nashville, Tennessee is Alex Little. He is a criminal defense and litigation attorney as well as a former prosecutor. Alex, first of all, are you surprised at all by the charges brought against Chris Watts?
No, it seems to be consistent with what we've heard in the reporting so far. They're clearly our first-degree justified charges. I think the termination of the pregnancy is unusual, but the facts of this case are unusual as well.
Well, the judge sealed the arrest affidavit. Why would that happen, and what kind of information might be in there?
That would happen normally if you have an arrest that takes place where the individual doesn't know they're going to be arrested. So that's a fairly normal course. Once the arrest takes place, though, those are generally unsealed, and it sounds like that's going to happen today in this case as well.
Well, did we learn any new information from this news conference regarding a motive?
No, but it does seem interesting that there's a potential that the deaths occurred at different times. If the daughters, for example, were killed on the 12th before Shanann returned home, that would obviously explain some of the timeline and some of the horrific ways that this may have occurred. So I think the fact that they're a little wishy-washy on the dates of the daughter's death is certainly an interesting fact.
Well, prosecutors were required by law to file charges by Monday. Can you explain why?
When you have a warrantless arrest like this, you have to justify that arrest with a probable cause affidavit and formal charges, and they've done that here.
Well, what do we expect to happen next in this case?
So the district attorney talked about that a little bit. There's going to be a hearing in the morning where he'll be notified of the charges. The potential sentence will be told to him by the judge. And then there'll be what's called a preliminary hearing where the government will have to put on evidence to explain why there's probable cause to believe that he committed all of these crimes.
All right, just a horrific case. Alex Little, thanks very much.